He's a fantastic guest. I've spoken with him before, and he's going to talk with us about what we can anticipate, what we should look I would say look forward, except that I don't really look forward to this, but what we can anticipate economically here in the United States over the next year or two. His name is Jack Rasmus. He's a professor of economics and politics at St. Mary's College. He joins us now on the Pat Thurston program. Hey, Jack, nice to talk with you again.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
Does everything sound okay with you? Because I am hearing an echo.
No, you sound fine to me.
All right. Well, then we will just continue, and I will try to ignore the echo. So you made some economic predictions for the upcoming year and the next, and they're not terribly optimistic, Jack.
No, we saw a little bit of a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel here in November, December, but that glimmer is already fading as the statistics of the holiday season start being produced here in the reports early in January. We heard a lot about recovery appears to be emerging.
Well, people spent more money than was anticipated in December, didn't they?
Well, no, actually they didn't. The reports coming out now show that retail sales were pretty much flat in December, 0.1%. And actually, if you take out auto sales, they were actually down. And that was despite deep discounting by businesses during the holidays.
Right, yeah.
There was a deep discounting right after Thanksgiving, and some sales occurred as a result of that. And then sales flattened out for a couple weeks, and then businesses in the final week before Christmas started deep discounting once again.
Well, now we've heard that unemployment numbers are declining.
Well, that's a little bit misleading because unemployment is declining because people are leaving the labor force and they aren't able to find jobs. And the way the government calculates its unemployment rate, if you leave the labor force, you're not considered unemployed, even though you don't have a job. A little bit of an oxymoron there. And unless you count the government's what they call U6 unemployment rate, but that's not the one that's typically reported. The 8.5% is the one typically reported,
right.
And it doesn't pick up people leaving the labor force. And plus, in November, December, your job numbers generally get a boost because of seasonality factors. If you look at what happened in the raw numbers, the actual jobs, almost all the jobs created actually, what we call non-seasonally adjusted, were in retail. Something like 182,000 jobs were created in retail.
Are those the numbers that we heard about the job creation in the private sector, that there were about 200,000 jobs created?
Yes, but that's seasonally adjusted jobs. If you look at before they adjust them up, before the government statistically manipulates the numbers, they were actually nowhere near as optimistic as that. It's a little arcane to try to explain seasonal adjusted numbers and so forth, but I prefer to look at the non-seasonally adjusted, which are the actual true number of jobs. And the picture was not as rosy as the adjusted jobs indicate. See, there's a problem with our statistics, and that is the methodology we used before the recession was based on good economic times, methodologies for adjusting raw job numbers. And they don't work as well, the adjustments, during this very unique kind of contraction we got going on. And the government needs to revisit, I believe, how they do these adjustments, seasonal adjustments, new business formation adjustments, and so forth.
Well, what would you say is a more accurate unemployment figure?
Well, I think if you're looking at the normal figure that they report to us,
yeah.
I would say we're still somewhere between 9.5% and 10%.
Jack, what about mortgage foreclosures? Are we seeing a decline in those?
Well, we saw a decline last year to 1.9 million foreclosures.
Oh, is that all?
that's still a very large number.
Yeah.
Before that, though, in the 2 previous years, we were running more than 3 million a year in foreclosures. And the reason why it slowed down last year was because of this robo-signing scandal.
Oh.
The banks were, wrote foreclosing on people they shouldn't have in a mechanical way, and of course it hit the press, and it got a lot of bad press, and the government sort of intervened, at least at the state level, and the banks slowed down their foreclosures. All they did, though, was bottle them up, and all the predictions are from Realty Track and other sources that we're going to see an acceleration of foreclosures here this year. And, of course, home prices still continue to fall. 2.5% this past year. So far, we're down about 35% in the last 3.5 years. And my prediction is it's going to continue to fall.
All right, I want you to hang on. We're going to take a break, but I want to get to some of your specific economic predictions coming forward, because you have been pretty successful with these predictions in years past, so I think you're someone we should be paying some attention to. Stick with us. You can join us. 808-0810 is the telephone number. 808-0810. Jack Rasmus is my guest. I'm Pat Thurston, and you're listening to KGO.
Watch the news on ABC7. Listen to it break on the Bay Area's news and information station, KGO 810.
KGO 810 is a proud sponsor of the 21st Annual Zinfandel Festival in San Francisco, January 26th through the 28th. This 3-day festival encompasses 4 fantastic events: Epicuria, food and Zinfandel pairings, flights, forums of flavor, the winemaker's dinner, and the Zap Festival's signature event, the Grand Tasting. The Grand Tasting is the world's largest single varietal tasting with more than 200 Zinfandel wineries offering barrel samples and the new releases. For more information and a chance to win tickets to the Grand Tasting, visit the contest page at KGORadio.com.
At Advance Auto Parts, we don't do anything just part way. We go full throttle. We don't just have a website. No, we have a massive find the part you need, get it delivered, save cash site. AdvanceAutoparts.com. I tell you to type that into your browser, but when you're on AdvanceAutoparts.com, you ain't browsing. You're getting stuff done. And now, save an additional 15% on orders of $100 or more. Service is our best part. Advance Auto Parts. See AdvanceAutoparts.com for details.
Right now at the Home Depot, buy new Martha Stewart Living or Platinum Plus carpet and get it installed for just $37. You also get lifetime stain and installation warranties. So it's never been easier to completely transform a room with better carpet at a better price. It all starts with $37 installation on new carpet. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Valid on basic installation, U.S. only. See store for details, exclusions, and license numbers.
Good morning, I'm Pat Thurston. We are speaking with Professor Jack Rasmus. He's a professor of economics and politics at St. Mary's College. And what we're talking about are his economic predictions for the upcoming year or two. And we'll get to your phone calls in a minute, but I want to talk with Jack specifically about some of his predictions before we do go to the phones. Jack, are we looking at austerity here in the United States? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
That road. This past year, of course, we cut $2.2 trillion deficit cutting, which won't take effect until 2013, however.
Right.
And I predict we will see even more cuts after the election, immediately after the election. Cuts aren't very popular, and politicians are avoiding it during this election year.
Yeah.
But I predict we'll see it accelerate here immediately after the upcoming November elections, even more so. And that will slow the economy down significantly in 2013, I predict. But there are other factors that are also going to slow the economy down after the elections. In between, I think we're going to bounce along the bottom. I don't see any robust recovery here in 2012. And there is this big wild card called the Eurozone crisis.
Yeah.
And should that accelerate, which now it looks like it is, with the cutting the ratings of banks and governments in Europe.
Yeah, that came out yesterday, didn't it?
Yes, yes. We could be in a very serious situation come this spring.
What's quantitative easing, and why do you think the Fed's going to introduce its third version this year?
Okay. Well, quantitative easing is when the Fed prints money and goes out and buys bonds, either mortgage bonds or long-term treasury bonds or whatever, to pump money into the economy. We've done this twice already in the last 3 years. In 2009, about $1.7 trillion, and in 2010, another $600 billion, and then last fall, a version of that. And there's talk about the Fed may do it again. Every time the Fed does that, of course, it pumps money into the economy, but unfortunately the money is not getting down to homeowners. It's not stimulating the housing market or jobs.
Right.
What it's doing is giving money to investors who then take that pretty much free money and go out and buy stocks and bonds and derivatives and so forth and commodities. Every time we get a quantitative easing, we get a little burst in the stock market, and we get a burst in commodities markets, which drive up oil and other commodities prices. That happened last spring. That happened in 2010. It happened in 2008. Commodity speculation and inflation.
It seems like, and help me understand this, because I know very little about economics. I just know that it doesn't feel very good right now. But it seems, as somebody who hasn't studied this, looking from the outside, it seems like Wall Street's doing just fine. It seems as if, the people who are on the top are not really suffering in this economy right now, that it's the working class in America and the poor in America who are really suffering. And the policies that our government seems to be looking at are not policies that are going to help us. Are we ever going to have a healthy economy in the United States if we don't have a healthy working class?
Well, yes. It's not just working class. It's middle class, upper, lower and middle class, and the wealthiest 10% are doing quite well because the stock market from the recession has gone up more than 100%.
Yeah.
Bond markets, huge returns for investors in bonds. So investors have done quite well. The problem is the investors have done well, and they're sitting on the cash.
And they're not creating jobs.
No, that's right. We've bailed out the big banks to the tune of $9 trillion. By the Federal Reserve, our central bank. We've spent $3 trillion, Congress and the President, bailing out the rest of the economy, and the whole idea was bail them out, and then they would use that bailout money to create jobs in the U.S. The problem is big businesses are sitting on $2.5 trillion of cash, and they're not creating jobs in the U.S. Well, they're not creating jobs because people aren't buying their goods, and they're not buying their goods because their income has not risen.
Yeah, because they need jobs.
That's right. You need jobs. You need to do something about the collapse of housing prices because that affects consumption.
Right.
And you need to do something about the growth of income. For the bottom 90% households, income in the last decade has fallen by 10%, and in the last 3 years by 4%. Last year, wages grew by only 1.8%, while inflation rose to 3.5%.
Isn't it something? It surprises me that inflation it goes up.
Yeah, inflation's going up faster than wages, which means long-run real income is not growing. Therefore, consumption is not growing. Yeah. If you look at what happened in November, December, the sales that did occur were clearly driven by issuance of credit cards and credit card spending.
Yeah.
And also because households are dipping into their savings once again in order to finance their consumption. So credit card debt consumption and savings rate decline consumption is not sustainable in the long run. No. That's why I believe we're not going to see the consumer, the household, really lead any recovery this year because real long-term factors like income growth just isn't there. Inflation's going to continue. May even go up. Oil prices may take another significant surge here this spring once again because of this situation in the Gulf of Hormuz, and Iran and so forth. That may drive prices up again, which will undermine real income and real spending even more. That is already very weak.
All right. Well, Dr. Jack Rasmus is my guest. Hang on, Jack. We're going to take another little break here. We'll come back and get to phone calls as soon as we return. 808-0810 is the telephone number. We're talking about the economic predictions for the upcoming year and beyond. I'm Pat Thurston, and this is KGO.